I'm Sophia Cambridge, 28 years old, and I built a luxury hotel empire from nothing while my family dismissed it as playing pretend. Last month, my parents texted me the most ironic message of all time: "You're not welcome at our 5-star hotel." Their 5-star hotel. I couldn't help but smile as I picked up my phone and texted our head of security, "Please revoke the Cambridge family's VIP access immediately." They thought they were banning me from some random hotel where they were hosting my cousin's wedding. They had no idea they were trying to kick the owner out of her own property, one of 12 luxury hotels I own across 4 countries, worth over $800 million. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments below and smash that like button if you've ever had family underestimate your success. Subscribe because this family drama gets absolutely wild. Wait until you hear how I got my revenge when they realized the truth. Trust me, the karma in this story is absolutely chef's kiss perfect. Growing up in Greenwich, Connecticut, our Tudor-style mansion was the picture of old money elegance. My father, Charles Cambridge, ran a successful investment firm, while my mother, Victoria, dedicated herself to maintaining our family's social standing through charity galas and country club committees. From birth, I was molded to fit their vision of success: Ivy League education, marriage to another wealthy family, and a life of sophisticated leisure. The only acceptable career paths in the Cambridge household were law, medicine, or finance, preferably finance, following in Dad's footsteps. When I showed interest in hospitality during high school, working part-time at the local country club's events, my parents treated it like a phase. "Sophia's just being helpful," Mom would tell her friends, never mentioning that I was fascinated by every aspect of event coordination and guest services. My obsession with luxury hotels began during our family vacations to places like the Plaza in New York and the Savoy in London. While my parents networked with other wealthy guests, I wandered the lobbies, studying everything from the flower arrangements to how staff anticipated guest needs. I collected hotel brochures, memorized room categories, and even befriended concierges who would explain the intricacies of 5-star service. "Sophia, stop bothering the staff," Mom would hiss, pulling me away from fascinating conversations about turn-down service protocols. "They have real work to do." But I couldn't help myself. By 15, I could identify thread counts in luxury linens and knew the difference between Hermes and Bulgari amenities just by smell. My bedroom became a shrine to hospitality excellence. Hotel keycards, branded items, even stolen cocktail napkins from famous hotel bars. Everything carefully organized in binders with detailed notes about service standards and guest experience innovations. When Dad discovered my collection, he laughed dismissively. "This hotel obsession is cute, sweetheart, but you'll outgrow it when you start thinking about real careers." High school brought academic excellence, valedictorian, debate team captain, student council president, but none of it mattered unless it aligned with their predetermined path. When I won a national essay contest on innovation in luxury service industries, Dad barely glanced up from his Wall Street Journal. "That's nice, honey. Make sure you're focusing on your economics coursework for your Wharton application." The real battle erupted during college application season. While my parents dropped heavy hints about Wharton's business program and Harvard's economics department, I secretly applied to Cornell's renowned School of Hotel Administration. The acceptance letter arrived on a snowy February morning, and I remember my hands shaking as I opened it in our marble-floored foyer. When I showed my parents, the temperature in our living room dropped 20 degrees. "This is not what we discussed," Dad said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Cornell for hotel management. Sophia, you're better than this." I surprised myself with my response: "I'm exactly this. This is who I am." The ultimatum came swiftly: attend an Ivy League school for a real major, or fund my own education. I chose independence. Through student loans, work-study programs, and 3 part-time jobs: front desk at a boutique hotel, catering assistant on weekends, and tutoring wealthy kids in French. I put myself through one of the world's most prestigious hospitality programs. Contact with my parents became increasingly strained. Birthday calls lasted exactly 5 minutes. Holiday visits were exercises in polite distance. When I graduated summa cum laude, my parents were conspicuously absent. They'd chosen to attend my brother Marcus's law school graduation ceremony that happened to coincide. "You understand, darling," Mom said over the phone. "This is such an important milestone for Marcus." Sitting alone after graduation, watching other students celebrate with their families, I made a silent vow. One day, they would regret underestimating me. I had no idea how prophetic that promise would become, or how sweet revenge could taste when served in a 5-star setting. Armed with my Cornell degree and fueled by parental dismissal, I moved to Manhattan and landed my first position as a front desk associate at the Sterling, a boutique hotel in Soho. My starting salary barely covered a studio apartment in Queens that I shared with 2 roommates, but I was finally living my dream. I worked insane hours, covering overnight shifts, filling in for sick colleagues, studying every operational detail like my life depended on it. While other associates complained about demanding guests, I saw each difficult interaction as an opportunity to prove my problem-solving skills. 6 months in, a guest had a complete meltdown over a room mix-up during Fashion Week. As he screamed at my colleague about ruining his business trip, I stepped in with a solution that not only resolved the issue, but turned him into a loyal customer. Unknown to me, Helena Morrison, the regional director for Pinnacle Hospitality Group, witnessed the entire exchange. "You handled that with exceptional grace," she said, approaching my desk after the guest left. "What's your name?" That conversation changed everything. Helena became my mentor, recognizing potential in me that even I hadn't fully understood. She began including me in management meetings and asking for my input on guest experience improvements. When a massive computer system failure left the hotel overbooked by 40 rooms during New York Fashion Week, I worked through the night calling partner properties and arranging transportation for displaced guests. Every guest left happy, many even excited about their alternative accommodations. The next morning, Helena promoted me to assistant manager. I called my parents, hoping this promotion might finally earn some recognition. "Assistant manager," Dad chuckled. "So you're still playing hotel manager? When are you going to get serious about your future?" I hung up and cried in the supply closet for 10 minutes. Then I washed my face, reapplied my makeup, and returned to the floor with a smile. Their approval no longer mattered, I told myself, a lie, but a necessary one. Helena continued challenging me beyond my job description. When Pinnacle's Miami property struggled with declining occupancy, she suggested I temporarily relocate to help turn it around. "This could make or break your trajectory," she warned. "The team there resists change, and the market is brutal." "When do I start?" I asked without hesitation. My parents predictably thought I was making another mistake. "Job hopping shows instability," Mom lectured during one of our increasingly rare calls. "No one wants to hire someone who can't commit." In Miami, I developed innovative marketing campaigns targeting tech entrepreneurs and international business travelers, redesigned the food and beverage program, and implemented new staff training protocols. Within 8 months, occupancy increased by 50% and revenue per available room led the market. The property transformed from Pinnacle's problem child to its star performer. This success caught the attention of Robert Sterling, Pinnacle's CEO, who invited me to participate in their executive fast-track program. At 24, I became the youngest participant in the program's history. "When will you get a real career?" Dad asked during Christmas dinner, after I shared the news. "Hotel work is fine temporarily, but you can't build substantial wealth in service industries." I stopped sharing professional achievements with them after that night. They'd made it clear my success didn't matter to them, so I'd build my empire in silence. Over the next 2 years, I climbed Pinnacle's corporate ladder while secretly developing my own business plan. Every night, I refined a comprehensive strategy for acquiring and revitalizing struggling luxury properties. When Helena introduced me to a group of investors impressed by my Miami turnaround, I was ready. My presentation was polished from countless practice sessions. To my amazement, they agreed to back my venture. At 26, I signed papers for my first property, a once-grand hotel in Charleston that had fallen into disrepair. Taking on that level of debt was terrifying. I'd wake at 3 a.m., heart pounding, wondering if I'd made a catastrophic mistake. But during daylight hours, confidence returned. I assembled a small team who believed in my vision for what would become the first Cambridge Collection property. The 18 months following my Charleston acquisition were simultaneously the most challenging and rewarding of my life. I worked 18-hour days, handling everything from financing negotiations to selecting thread counts for luxury linens. When the property reopened after extensive renovations, the response exceeded even my optimistic projections. We reached profitability 4 months ahead of schedule. Success bred success. With Charleston generating positive cash flow and excellent reviews, securing funding for a second location became easier. A historic property in Savannah followed 12 months later. The Cambridge Collection was becoming recognized for personalized service and meticulously restored properties that honored each building's unique heritage. At 27, I received the Rising Star in Hospitality award at the National Hotel Association Conference. For the first time in years, my parents attended an event related to my career. I spotted them in the ballroom's back, looking uncomfortable among hospitality executives. "We are proud of you," Mom said afterward, air-kissing my cheek. "Though I wonder when you'll find time for marriage with all this hotel business." Dad checked his watch repeatedly during the reception, making it clear he had more important places to be. "Nice speech, very enthusiastic. Is there much money in all this?" That brief reconciliation attempt only reinforced our emotional distance. They still viewed my career as an extended phase rather than the empire it was becoming. When Robert Sterling announced his retirement the following year, Pinnacle found itself vulnerable to acquisition. Using every business connection I'd cultivated and leveraging Cambridge Collection's success, I secured financing for what seemed impossible: acquiring Pinnacle's entire portfolio. Industry publications called it the hospitality coup of the decade. At 28, I rebranded the operation as Cambridge Luxury Properties, suddenly finding myself CEO of 12 hotels across 4 countries with over 2,500 employees. My parents remained willfully unaware of my achievements' scale. Despite occasional press coverage and industry recognition, they continued speaking of my career as if I managed a single hotel rather than owning a rapidly expanding luxury empire. I stopped trying to make them understand. Instead, I channeled all energy into building something undeniable. Each new property received my obsessive attention. I personally designed penthouse suites, selected signature scents for lobbies, and trained management teams on Cambridge service standards that were becoming legendary among discerning travelers. My executive team became the family that supported my vision. Helena, who'd left Pinnacle to join my company as COO, provided the maternal guidance I no longer received from Victoria Cambridge. When Marcus made partner at his law firm, my parents threw an elaborate celebration. My invitation apparently got lost in the mail. I learned about it from a cousin's Instagram post. The hurt was profound, but I'd become expert at transforming emotional pain into professional drive. I buried myself in work, expanding Cambridge's footprint internationally. Industry accolades poured in, but personal emptiness remained. The irony wasn't lost on me. I owned properties where families gathered to celebrate milestones, while my own family relationships withered from neglect and misunderstanding. Walking through my hotels, I'd sometimes pause to watch multi-generational families laughing together over dinner, or parents proudly celebrating their children's achievements in our event spaces. These moments triggered a hollow ache, reminding me what success couldn't buy. By my 28th birthday, Cambridge luxury properties had become synonymous with exceptional experiences for discerning travelers. The text from my cousin Rachel arrived on a Tuesday morning as I reviewed quarterly reports in my New York penthouse office. Getting married next spring. Would love you in the wedding party if your hotel job allows time off. Mom and Dad are handling arrangements. They booked the Cambridge in Boston. Weird coincidence with your name, right? Smiling face. I stared at the message for several minutes, my coffee growing cold. My cousin had no idea. None of my family did. Despite press coverage, industry recognition, and the Cambridge name literally on buildings in major cities, they remained completely unaware that I owned the very hotel where they were planning her wedding. For a moment, I considered telling Rachel immediately, but something held me back. What if this could be the moment they finally saw my success? What if they experienced Cambridge's legendary service firsthand and recognized what I'd built before knowing it was mine? The decision felt monumental as I typed my response, "Congratulations. I'd be honored to be in your wedding. The Cambridge is a beautiful choice." This choice set everything in motion. Within days, the booking appeared in our system, Cambridge Family Wedding, Boston Property, Spring 2024. As owner, I received automatic alerts for high-value events, and my family's celebration qualified due to the extensive room block and full ballroom rental. I called David Chen, our Boston general manager, to discuss the delicate situation. "Your family is booking our property and they don't know you own it?" he asked, understandably confused. "Correct. I'd like to keep it that way for now." "May I ask why, Ms. Cambridge?" It was a fair question without a simple answer. "I need to handle this carefully. Please ensure they receive impeccable service, but don't reveal my connection." For the next month, I received updates about wedding planning. My parents toured the property, met with our events team, and began arrangements, all while having no idea their daughter owned the hotel they were critiquing. The first in-person encounter came during the venue tour. I watched through security cameras as my family entered our lobby. Rachel looked radiant with excitement, while her fiancé seemed appropriately impressed by the space's grandeur. My parents, however, immediately began examining everything with critical eyes. "The lobby seems smaller than the website suggested," Mom commented to our events coordinator, Maria Santos, whom I'd personally recruited from the Ritz-Carlton. "These floral arrangements are rather ostentatious," Dad added, gesturing toward our signature display of fresh orchids and peonies that I refreshed weekly. I watched Maria maintain perfect composure as she guided them through the property, explaining amenities available for wedding parties. When they reached our grand ballroom, a space I'd personally overseen restoring, preserving original chandeliers while adding modern lighting systems, Dad immediately began negotiating. "This standard package won't do," he insisted. "We expect significant upgrades given our booking size." Maria glanced toward the camera, knowing I was watching. I texted her quickly, "Offer Platinum Experience Package at standard rate." This package, normally reserved for our most elite clients and priced accordingly, included numerous luxury enhancements. Offering it at standard pricing was unprecedented, but I wanted Rachel's day to be perfect despite my parents' behavior. As planning progressed, my parents' demands escalated. They requested room upgrades for 20 family members, special menu items not on our standard lists, extended reception hours, and numerous accommodations that would be refused for any other client. I approved everything, watching from a distance as my staff struggled to maintain professionalism. Rachel, meanwhile, seemed genuinely appreciative and somewhat embarrassed by our parents' approach. During one planning meeting, after Dad berated a staff member over linen thread counts, I heard her apologize. "I'm so sorry about my uncle," she told Maria. "This means a lot to them, but they are being ridiculous." "No apology necessary," Maria assured her with genuine warmth. "We want your day to be perfect." As the wedding weekend approached, I arranged to attend as a bridesmaid while maintaining my secret. The charade was becoming complex, but I was committed to seeing it through. I had no idea how explosive the revelation would be. The rehearsal dinner in our private dining room became the breaking point. Dad had selected an expensive wine that was served at slightly the wrong temperature, a minor issue easily corrected, but his reaction was immediate and disproportionate. "This is completely unacceptable," he shouted at Marcus, our 24-year-old sommelier who'd recently earned his certification. "For what we are paying, I expect perfection. Get me the manager immediately." Before Marcus could respond, I stepped in, unable to watch my staff be mistreated. "Is there a problem with the service?" I asked, momentarily forgetting I was supposed to be just another bridesmaid. Dad turned to me, surprised. "Sophia, this isn't your concern. I need to speak with management about their staff's incompetence." "I'm happy to help resolve any issues," I replied carefully, signaling Marcus to give us space. "Since when do you know anything about wine service?" Dad scoffed. "Just because you work at some hotel doesn't make you an expert on hospitality." The irony might have been funny under different circumstances. Instead, it highlighted how little they understood about my life. "I know enough to recognize that our staff is doing an excellent job," I said evenly. "Perhaps we could address concerns privately without disrupting Rachel's dinner." "What I need," Dad insisted, his voice rising, "is to speak with whoever owns this place. Their staff needs proper training." Little did he know he was already speaking to the owner. The moment to reveal everything hovered between us, but Rachel's pleading expression convinced me to wait. This was her rehearsal dinner, not the time for family revelations. The morning of Rachel's wedding arrived with perfect late spring weather, clear skies, mild temperatures, and a gentle breeze. From my penthouse window, I could see Boston Common awakening with fresh greenery and early joggers. Under different circumstances, it would have been pure celebration. Instead, my phone buzzed with increasingly urgent messages from David. Mr. Cambridge demanding complete ballroom reset. Claims table configuration wrong despite approving final layout yesterday. Staff attempting accommodation, but cannot complete before ceremony without additional resources. I checked the time, 7:30 a.m., with the ceremony at 4 p.m. Such a major change would normally be impossible, but I immediately authorized overtime for extra staff. Before I could shower, another message arrived, Mrs. Cambridge rejecting floral delivery from approved vendor. Demanding specific orchid varieties not seasonally available in New England. The messages continued throughout the morning. Dad wanted premium bar selections enhanced with specific bourbon brands not in our inventory. Mom decided chair sashes needed changing from the ones selected weeks ago. Each demand came with implicit threats about taking their business elsewhere, oblivious to the fact that relocating a 150-person wedding with 8 hours' notice was virtually impossible. By 11 a.m., David called rather than texted, his normally unflappable demeanor showing strain. "Ms. Cambridge, I apologize, but the situation has become untenable. Your father is in the ballroom personally directing staff table arrangements. He told Carmen from our events team that she obviously doesn't understand proper layout and should find another profession." Carmen was a 15-year industry veteran I'd recruited from the Four Seasons. The thought of Dad berating her made something snap inside me. "I'm coming down," I said. "Please assemble the executive team in the presidential suite. It's time to address this directly." After dressing in one of my signature business suits rather than the bridesmaid dress hanging in my closet, I texted Rachel, "Need to speak with your parents urgently regarding wedding arrangements. Can you direct them to the presidential suite? I'll explain everything soon." Her confused reply came quickly, "What's going on?" "They are in the ballroom terrorizing staff." "What do you need to discuss?" "Trust me," I wrote back. "This is important." 20 minutes later, my parents arrived at the presidential suite, clearly irritated at being pulled from their micromanagement. Their expressions shifted from annoyance to confusion when they found not only me, but David and 5 other Cambridge executives waiting. "Sophia, what's the meaning of this?" Dad demanded. "We have a wedding to finalize, and the staff here needs constant supervision." I took a deep breath, knowing this moment would permanently alter our family dynamic. "I need to clarify something," I began. "The staff you've been criticizing aren't just hotel employees. They are my employees. Every person you've spoken to, every service you've demanded, every accommodation you've received, all of it has happened under my authority." Mom's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about? Are you working here now?" "I don't work here," I replied steadily. "I own here. Cambridge Luxury Properties is my company. I founded it, built it, and own all 12 properties across 4 countries, including this one." The silence was absolute. Dad's face cycled through disbelief, confusion, and finally embarrassment, quickly replaced by defensiveness. "That's impossible," he said. "You manage hotels. You never mentioned owning anything of this scale." "I stopped mentioning my achievements when it became clear they didn't interest you," I replied. "But yes, this is my company. The Cambridge in the name isn't a coincidence." Mom sank into one of the suite's plush armchairs. "You own all of this. Since when?" "I founded the company 3 years ago with 1 property. We've expanded rapidly, including acquiring Pinnacle Hospitality last year. It's been covered extensively in business publications." Dad's expression hardened. "So you've been deceiving us this entire time, letting us book this venue without revealing you owned it. What kind of game are you playing?" The accusation stung despite its absurdity. "Game? You've dismissed my career at every turn. You've treated my staff, some of the most dedicated professionals in the industry, with contempt. You've made demands that would be rejected from any other client, all of which I approved because I wanted Rachel to have a perfect wedding. This is mortifying," Mom whispered, probably remembering every critical comment about design elements I'd personally selected. At that moment, Rachel and her fiancé appeared at the suite door. "What's going on?" Rachel asked, looking between us with growing alarm. "Why is everyone here instead of getting ready?" "Your cousin has been hiding things from the family," Dad began. "That's not fair," I interrupted. "I've never hidden anything. You simply never asked, never showed interest. Do you know how many industry interviews I've given? How many award ceremonies I've attended alone, because my own family couldn't be bothered to attend?" Rachel's eyes widened. "Wait, you own this hotel? Cambridge is your company. Why didn't you ever say anything? Would it have mattered?" I asked softly. "When has anything I've accomplished ever been enough?" Dad dismissed this with a wave. "This is hardly the time for theatrics, Sophia. We have a wedding to finish, and now we discover you've been watching us like some spy in your own hotel." 12 properties, I said, my voice rising despite efforts to stay calm. 2,500 employees. A company valued at $800 million. I built this while you told everyone I had a cute little job in hotel management. The numbers finally penetrated. After a long pause, Dad asked, "Why didn't you inform us the company had grown to this extent? As family, we should have known about such developments." His question missed the point so dramatically I almost laughed. Informed as family. When exactly have you treated me as family? Was it when you refused to help with college because I chose hospitality? When you skipped my graduation? Or when you forgot to invite me to Marcus's partnership celebration? We've always supported you, Mom protested weakly. No, I replied firmly. You've tolerated me. There's a difference. Rachel moved to my side, taking my hand. Sophia, I had no idea about any of this. Why didn't you tell me either? It was easier than constantly explaining why our family couldn't acknowledge my success, I admitted. I'm sorry for not being honest with you. Rather than processing the emotional significance, Dad immediately shifted to practical considerations. Well, now that we know about this connection, I assume family will receive appropriate discounts for future stays. We've been paying full price when we could have had family rates. That question, so perfectly encapsulating his inability to see beyond himself, was the final straw. This is what you take from this moment? I asked incredulously. Not pride in what your daughter built, not regret for how you've treated my staff, just concern about getting better prices. Rachel's fiancé, who'd remained silent, gently suggested, perhaps we should consider moving the wedding elsewhere. This seems complicated, and we don't want family tension overshadowing the day. Dad seized on this immediately. Yes, that might be best. We wouldn't want to impose on Sophia's business. His tone made it an insult rather than consideration. The contracts are signed, I pointed out. Everything's prepared. Moving now would be impossible. Then we'll proceed as clients rather than family, Dad declared coldly. Since that appears to be how you prefer arrangements. With that, he took out his phone and typed something. Seconds later, my phone buzzed with a message. I looked down to read, "You're not welcome at our 5-star hotel. Your presence would make the family uncomfortable at Rachel's wedding. Please respect our wishes as clients." The breathtaking audacity of that text, claiming ownership of my hotel while banning me from my cousin's wedding, left me momentarily speechless. When I found my voice, it was perfectly steady. David, please escort Mr. and Mrs. Cambridge back to their suite. Rachel, I'm so sorry this is happening on your wedding day. Sophia, please, Rachel began, tears forming. It's all right, I assured her. Your day should be perfect. As my parents were led from the room, I picked up my phone and typed a message to our head of security. Please revoke Cambridge family VIP access effective immediately. Standard guest protocols only. The wedding proceeded without me. I watched from security feeds in my office as Rachel, beautiful but visibly distressed, exchanged vows. I watched my parents accept congratulations from guests, presenting themselves as the proud family while I sat alone above them. At exactly midnight, as the reception wound down, their key cards stopped working for VIP access. No more Cambridge Club lounge privileges. No more priority service. No more special amenities. They'd wanted to be treated as regular clients rather than family. I was simply honoring their request. When Dad called the front desk to complain, he was politely informed that their access had been adjusted per management instructions. Do you know who I am? I heard him demand through the recorded call. Yes, sir. You're Charles Cambridge, guest in room 812, our night manager replied professionally. I'd be happy to send new key cards with standard access. It was a small victory that provided little consolation, as I sat alone, watching my family celebrate without me. The days following Rachel's wedding passed in emotional numbness. I threw myself into operations with even greater intensity, scheduling back-to-back meetings that left no time for reflection. Industry blogs picked up fragments of the Cambridge family drama, with speculation ranging from internal company conflict to hostile takeover attempts by relatives. Our PR team worked overtime to minimize damage, but gossip persisted. A week later, I retreated to my New York penthouse, claiming a rare weekend off. Helena arrived unannounced Saturday morning, using emergency access I'd given her years ago. "You're not answering calls," she said, finding me still in pajamas at 11 a.m., surrounded by takeout containers and spreadsheets. The team's worried. "I'm fine," I insisted automatically. "Just catching up on quarterly projections." Helena, who'd known me since I was a front desk associate handling irate guests with perfect composure, raised an eyebrow. "Sophia, I've watched you build an empire by transforming pain into ambition. But eventually, pain needs addressing directly. What would you suggest?" I asked, aiming for sarcasm, but hearing vulnerability instead. "Therapy. And accepting that this was never about them, it's about what you've been seeking through all this success." Her words broke something open inside me. For the first time since childhood, I allowed myself to cry openly in front of another person. Years of suppressed hurt poured out as Helena provided the maternal comfort Victoria Cambridge had never offered. "Your success is real," Helena said when the storm subsided. "Your company is extraordinary. Neither requires their validation to be true." "Then why does it still hurt?" I whispered. "Because you're human," she replied simply. "And it's time you allowed yourself to be." That conversation marked a new beginning. I made 2 calls, one to a therapist specializing in family trauma, another to Rachel. My cousin answered immediately. "Sophia, I've been trying to reach you for days. Are you okay?" "Not really," I admitted, honesty feeling foreign but necessary. "But I'm working on it." "How was the honeymoon?" "Beautiful, but overshadowed by everything. I had no idea about the company, about how they've treated you. I feel terrible." "You have nothing to feel terrible about," I assured her. "I should have been more open." "They were wrong," she said firmly. "What they did was unforgivable." "Have you spoken to them?" "Yes," she sighed. "They have their own version of events. Dad's still angry about the key card situation." Despite everything, this made me laugh. "Of course he is. I want us to stay connected," Rachel said. "Whatever happens with them, I don't want to lose my cousin again." That simple affirmation meant more than she could know. Over the following months, I maintained minimal contact with my parents while focusing on healing. Weekly therapy helped me recognize how my entire identity had become wrapped up in proving worth through achievement. "Success was your armor," my therapist observed. "If you could just be successful enough, impressive enough, their lack of validation wouldn't matter." "And now," she prompted. "Now I understand that no amount of success can heal that wound. Only I can do that." This realization led to gradual changes. I established the Cambridge Hospitality Foundation, providing scholarships to first-generation college students pursuing hospitality careers. I developed mentorship programs for young professionals whose families didn't support their choices. For the first time, I began cultivating life outside work. I reconnected with college friends, accepted dinner invitations, and was surprised to find myself enjoying conversations without mentally drafting emails. 6 months after the wedding incident, I received an unexpected email from Mom. The subject line read, "Saw this," with a link to a Forbes profile about me and Cambridge luxury properties. The article detailed our growth, innovative approach to hospitality, and my journey from front desk associate to industry leader. The email body contained one line: "We had no idea it was this significant." After considerable thought, I replied, "There's a lot we don't know about each other. Perhaps that could change." This tentative exchange opened communication channels, though progress remained slow and fragile. Dad predictably found direct acknowledgement more difficult. His first email focused on tax strategies for hospitality businesses rather than personal reconnect. After consulting my therapist, I suggested meeting on neutral ground for coffee. The first encounter was painfully awkward, with Dad discussing market trends and Mom making nervous observations about the cafe's decor. "I didn't come here to talk about interest rates," I finally said. "I came to begin rebuilding a relationship, if that's something you both want." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "We've always wanted a relationship with you, Sophia." You became distant. Rather than arguing about the past, a pointless exercise therapy had taught me to recognize, I focused on the present. "I'm here now, trying to connect. Can we start from this point forward?" Mom reached across the table to take my hand, the first genuine physical contact between us in years. "We'd like that very much." Dad nodded stiffly, the closest to emotional acknowledgement he could manage. It was a small beginning, but a beginning nonetheless. Rachel served as a bridge during this tentative reconciliation, arranging family dinners where conversation gradually became less superficial. My parents still struggled to comprehend what I'd built, but they were making efforts. "Marcus says your Boston property is considered the city's finest," Dad mentioned during one dinner, his version of a compliment. "Thank you," I replied, accepting the awkward praise for what it was, progress. Meanwhile, I continued building both my company and my sense of self beyond professional achievement. I'd started dating Alexander, an architect who'd designed our Singapore property, and our relationship flourished based on mutual respect and shared values. My friendship circle expanded beyond industry contacts. For the first time in my adult life, I experienced success as one component of a fulfilling life rather than its sole defining feature. 1 year after the wedding confrontation, I stood on the terrace of our newest property in London, watching Thames lights shimmer against the evening sky. Cambridge, London had been particularly challenging, navigating British regulations, preserving Victorian architecture while modernizing systems, recruiting staff who embodied both English sophistication and Cambridge warmth. Yet I'd approached this opening with newfound balance, delegating appropriately and trusting my team. The result was no less exceptional for having been achieved with less personal martyrdom. Alexander joined me on the terrace, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Congratulations," he said, kissing my temple. "It's magnificent." "Thank you for understanding all the late nights and early mornings," I replied, leaning into him. Our relationship had flourished despite my demanding schedule, perhaps because he understood my passion while encouraging other priorities. "This one feels different somehow," he observed. "I designed it with joy instead of something to prove," I explained. "That makes all the difference." Inside, the opening gala was in full swing, industry leaders, London elite, and travel journalists mingling in the grand salon I'd envisioned 2 years earlier. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel, "Just found out I'm pregnant. You're going to be Aunt Sophia. Can't wait for you to meet the baby in 7 months." The news brought immediate tears, happy ones for a change. My cousin was creating her own family, and I'd be part of it. "Everything okay?" Alexander asked, noticing my emotion. "Everything's wonderful," I replied, showing him the message. "I am going to be an aunt." This personal joy meant as much as the professional triumph unfolding inside. A realization impossible for the Sophia of a year ago. Rachel's pregnancy created opportunities for further family healing. When she asked about hosting her baby shower at the Boston property, I suggested something more significant. "What if you and your husband bring my parents to London instead? A family trip before the baby arrives." My treat, of course. The invitation represented more than a luxury vacation. It was an opportunity to share my world with my family on my terms, in an environment where my accomplishments couldn't be minimized or overlooked. To my surprise, they accepted. 2 months later, I greeted my parents in Cambridge, London's lobby, watching their expressions as they took in the space's grandeur. "You designed all this?" Mom asked, genuine awe in her voice as she admired the custom lighting and meticulously restored Victorian details. "Every detail," I confirmed. "Would you like a tour?" For the first time, I showed my parents my professional world without downplaying its significance. I introduced them to executive team members who spoke of my leadership with respect and admiration. I explained design choices and service protocols, sharing challenges and triumphs of creating luxury experiences that felt both exclusive and welcoming. Watching Dad observe a staff training session, I saw something I'd never witnessed before: actual recognition of my work's complexity and value. "The level of detail is extraordinary," he commented afterward. "I had no idea hospitality operated at this level of sophistication." From him, this constituted high praise. On their final evening, I hosted a private dinner in my London apartment overlooking the Thames. As we shared wine and conversation, I realized the dynamic had shifted in subtle but important ways. They were seeing me, truly seeing me, perhaps for the first time. "What you've built is remarkable, Sophia," Dad said as we lingered over dessert. "I didn't fully understand until seeing it firsthand." "That means a lot to me," I replied honestly. "We should have supported your choices from the beginning," Mom added, reaching for my hand. "I'm sorry we didn't." The acknowledgement, so long awaited, felt both satisfying and strangely less necessary than it once would have been. I'd found my own validation in the interim. "We can only move forward," I said, squeezing her hand in return. Back in New York 2 weeks later, I launched a new initiative, a mentorship program specifically for young entrepreneurs whose families didn't support their vision. Using my own experience as foundation, I created resources I wished had been available during my early struggles. "Success without support is possible," I told the first cohort of participants. "But having a community that believes in you makes the journey less lonely." Through helping others navigate similar challenges, I found additional healing for my own wounds. Each young person who flourished despite family skepticism reinforced the lesson I'd learned through such difficulty: external validation is never a substitute for believing in yourself. 3 months later, I hosted a major industry conference at our Boston property, the site of the previous year's painful confrontation. My family attended the opening reception, including Rachel with her newborn daughter, Emma. Watching my parents proudly introduce themselves as Sophia's family to industry colleagues created a sense of closure I hadn't expected to find. Later that evening, in my office overlooking Boston Harbor, I received a text from Dad. "The keynote was excellent. Your points about authentic luxury resonated with everyone. Proud of what you've accomplished." I smiled at the message, not because I needed his approval, but because it represented growth on both our parts. My success no longer hinged on their recognition, and they were finally able to see value in the path I'd chosen. Turning to look out at city lights reflecting on the water, I felt profound contentment. The journey had been far from easy, but it had led me to genuine peace, success defined on my own terms, relationships based on authentic connection rather than obligation, and the freedom that comes from writing your own story instead of conforming to someone else's expectations. What's your experience with family members who dismissed your dreams? Have you ever had to prove yourself to people who should have believed in you from the start? Let me know in the comments below where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that like button if this story of family karma resonated with you. If you've ever felt underestimated by the people closest to you, please subscribe for more stories about resilience, self-discovery, and the sweet satisfaction of proving doubters wrong. Share this with someone who might need encouragement to follow their own path, even when those closest to them don't understand. Thank you for joining me on this journey from family dismissal to empire building. Remember, sometimes the greatest triumph isn't proving others wrong, it's discovering you no longer need their approval to know your own worth. The sweetest revenge is building a life so successful and fulfilling that their opinion becomes irrelevant. And when karma finally comes calling, it doesn't just knock, it reserves the presidential suite.